In a historic and spiritually charged moment for the Catholic Church, Pope Leo XIV announced the appointment of Sister Tiziana Merletti, a seasoned Franciscan nun and theologian, as the new secretary of the Dicastery for Institutes of Consecrated Life and Societies of Apostolic Life. This appointment marks a seismic shift in Vatican dynamics and global ecclesial governance, setting new precedents for the role of women in the Church and the spiritual reawakening of religious life in the 21st century. While the announcement made headlines around the globe, few understand the deeper spiritual, canonical, and pastoral implications of this moment. This multi-part exposition uncovers the layers behind this appointment, from Sister Tiziana's background to the theological vision of Pope Leo XIV and what it means for the future of consecrated life. The life and mission of Sister Tiziana Merletti. Early life and vocation. Born in 1964 in northern Italy, Sister Tiziana Merletti grew up in a devout but working-class Catholic family. Her childhood was steeped in Marian devotion and community service, with her parents often volunteering at the local parish. At the age of 19, after a profound experience of Eucharistic adoration, she discerned a call to religious life. She joined the Franciscan Sisters of the Poor, drawn by their charism of simplicity, service to the sick, and Eucharistic contemplation. She made her final vows in 1989 and immediately set out for mission work in South America, where she spent a decade in the favelas of Brazil. Education and theological contribution. After returning to Europe, Sister Tiziana pursued doctoral studies in spiritual theology at the Pontifical University Antonianum in Rome, focusing on charism as prophetic resistance, a theology of consecrated life in marginalized cultures. Her published works gained global recognition, especially in African and Asian religious institutes. She argued that consecrated life must reclaim its prophetic edge, standing not only as a contemplative witness but as a spiritual resistance to dehumanizing modern systems. 2. The role of the Dicastery for consecrated life. What the Dicastery does. The Dicastery for Institutes of Consecrated Life and Societies of Apostolic Life is a major arm of the Vatican, tasked with overseeing all matters related to religious orders and congregations, monastic and eremitic communities, secular institutes and new forms of consecration, formation, governance, and discipline of religious institutes. In short, it safeguards the vitality, orthodoxy, and adaptability of consecrated life across cultures. Why her appointment matters. Traditionally, the role of secretary, the second in command after the prefect, was held by bishops. Sister Tiziana's appointment breaks that mold. For the first time, a non-ordained woman religious now holds one of the Church's most influential offices, a move that many see as both symbolic and substantive. 3. Pope Leo XIV's ecclesial vision. A pope of pastoral prophecy. From the beginning of his pontificate, Pope Leo XIV has demonstrated an unwavering commitment to revitalizing consecrated life, which he calls the prophetic lungs of the Church. His encyclical, Spiritus Vivificat, The Spirit Gives Life, emphasized that the future of religious communities is not in mere survival, but in radical, incarnational witness to Christ. Women in ecclesial leadership. Leo XIV's decision is not isolated. It is part of a larger ecclesial project. He previously appointed laywomen as prefects of Vatican dicasteries, including for laity and interreligious dialogue. He created the Council of Prophetic Voices, composed primarily of women religious and theologians advising him on matters of global mission. He often remarked, "When the Church breathes with both her lungs, male and female, the gospel can echo more freely across the earth." 4. Reactions and ripples across the Church. A. Responses from religious communities. Sister Tiziana's appointment was met with overwhelming joy from thousands of religious men and women across continents. Superiors General of major congregations released a joint statement. "This is not just a Vatican decision, this is an affirmation of our shared charism, dignity, and mission in the body of Christ." In monasteries and convents, prayers of thanksgiving were offered. In formation houses, young novices studied Sister Tiziana's writings as signs of a new springtime for religious life. B. Voices of concern and debate. However, some traditional circles expressed concern. Questions arose. Does this appointment blur the lines of ordained governance? Will it lead to pressure for female ordination? The Vatican's doctrinal office responded clearly, this decision is consistent with canon law and affirms rather than undermines the Church's teaching on ordination. It instead recognizes the spiritual authority and governance capability of women in non-sacramental domains. 5. Sister Tiziana's first statements and priorities. A. Her vision. In her first public remarks, Sister Tiziana said, "The consecrated life must not settle into maintenance. It must burn again, like a bush on fire that is never consumed, drawing others near to the mystery of God." She outlined 4 immediate priorities. 1. Listening to communities, especially those struggling with identity and numbers. 2. Promoting intercultural formation, to prepare missionaries for global witness. 3. Addressing spiritual burnout, by encouraging contemplative renewal and sabbaticals. 4. Strengthening synodality, inviting more voices from the grassroots into Rome's discernment. B. Her unique leadership style. Known for her humility and firm compassion, Sister Tiziana avoids media hype. She prefers silent visits to cloisters, quiet phone calls to discouraged superiors, and listening retreats with young sisters and brothers. One nun said of her, "She leads not by speeches, but by shared silence." 6. The global impact, consecrated life in every continent. A. Africa, revitalization and spiritual confidence. In sub-Saharan Africa, where vocations to religious life have been growing steadily, the appointment of Sister Tiziana Merletti has been hailed as a moment of affirmation and renewed identity. Many African sisters have long served in critical missionary, healthcare, and educational roles, yet their voices have not always been heard in global ecclesial discussions. With her history of collaboration in African congregations and fluency in intercultural spirituality, Sister Tiziana's new position offers hope for contextual formation materials tailored for African cultural and spiritual realities. Greater representation of African religious in Vatican consultative bodies. Encouragement of homegrown charisms, rather than importing Western spiritual models. Cardinal Peter Kodwo Turkson commented in a Nairobi interview, "This is a Kairos moment. Rome is no longer speaking only to the world. Rome is now listening." B. Asia, dialogue, simplicity, and contemplation. Asian congregations, often operating in minority and interreligious contexts, found in Sister Tiziana's spirituality a model of gentle but courageous witness. Her past collaborations with contemplative communities in India and interfaith networks in Indonesia place her in a strong position to support contemplative and eremitical communities under threat from modernization. Encourage dialogue-based mission in Buddhist, Hindu, and Islamic majority contexts. Equip religious for witness through presence, not only through preaching. A Japanese Carmelite superior shared. In her writings, we find language that doesn't disturb, but invites. That is how consecrated life must move forward in Asia. 7. Canonical and ecclesiological reflections. A theological shift in governance. From a canon law perspective, Sister Tiziana's appointment does not alter sacramental governance, which remains reserved to ordained clergy. But it expands the theology of ecclesial co-responsibility, a key theme in Lumen Gentium and Christus Vivit. This shift recognizes that governance in the Church is not only juridical but charismatic and spiritual. Women and religious are now increasingly being seen not just as collaborators but as stewards of the Church's pastoral imagination. B. Vatican II fulfilled in new ways. The Second Vatican Council emphasized the universal call to holiness and the vital witness of consecrated life. Yet it did not fully anticipate the evolving roles of women in the Church's institutional life. Pope Leo XIV's actions, including this appointment, represent an organic development of conciliar teaching, bringing forth the fruit of decades of reflection, discernment, and lived experience. Father Jean-Michel Prévet, a respected French theologian, stated, "What began in the 1960s as a renewal has now become a transformation. Vatican II planted the seed. This is its flowering." 8. A new chapter for consecrated life. 1. Reawakening the prophetic fire. The global decline in vocations, especially in Europe and North America, has led many to ask whether consecrated life still has a place in modern society. Sister Tiziana's leadership suggests that the Church is not giving up on religious life, rather, it is calling for its radical reawakening. Her approach calls religious to return to the roots of their founders, often lives marked by poverty, prayer, and resistance to injustice. To develop new expressions of charism, through ecological spirituality, digital evangelization, and non-institutional presence. To walk with the poor, not as saviors, but as companions. 2. Digital monasticism and new forms of consecration. A remarkable aspect of Sister Tiziana's thought is her openness to emerging forms of consecrated life. Lay consecrated persons living outside of formal religious communities. Online monastic networks and prayer circles. Communities without vows, but united by charism and mission. These forms, often misunderstood, may hold the key to consecrated life in the 21st century. Under her leadership, the Dicastery has already announced a listening synod for new seeds of the Spirit in religious life. 9. Future challenges and spiritual risks. 1. Navigating resistance. No meaningful reform happens without resistance. Some bishops, male religious, and curial officials may quietly challenge Sister Tiziana's authority. The cultural inertia within the Vatican, and centuries of male-dominated decision-making, are not easily undone. Her appointment will require wise diplomacy to gain trust. Firm fidelity to doctrine, avoiding ideological traps. Prayerful endurance in the face of criticism. 2. Avoiding the pitfall of symbolism. While her appointment is historic, it must not be reduced to tokenism. Sister Tiziana herself warned in an interview, "I am not here as a symbol. I am here as a servant. If the Church uses me as a symbol only, it will miss the Spirit's invitation." Her success will depend on whether she is truly empowered to act, not just to inspire. Finally, a moment for the Church to reimagine itself. The appointment of Sister Tiziana Merletti as Secretary of the Dicastery for Consecrated Life is a turning point, not only for women in the Church, but for all who believe in the transformative power of the Spirit. It is a call for humility over hierarchy, prophecy over prestige, spiritual boldness over bureaucratic safety. Pope Leo XIV, through this decision, has placed consecrated life at the center of ecclesial renewal. He has reminded the world that the Church must not merely preserve, it must prophesy, and those who have vowed poverty, chastity, and obedience are often the ones who see most clearly into the heart of God's dream for humanity. As Sister Tiziana now enters one of the most powerful offices in the Church, she does so not to climb, but to kneel. And from that posture of service, she may just lead the consecrated world into a new Pentecost.